Hey guys, here is Maniac. Now, guys, like said already, we have the character of the week right in front of us, and that really screams after the measure, putting down also the deck profile of this character finally. And the character deck profile is, of course, none other than the character deck profile of the Seeker Rare Hunter. Now, Rare Hunter, of course, is to be seen, has a deck under the motto of and device of three main factors, namely stalling, draw power, and of course, third is Exodia. Well, Rare Hunter is, after my opinion, one of the Seeker is one of the weakest, or after my stance, even the weakest of the all of the Rare Hunters, which kind of makes sense and which also follows the purpose that he himself gets to be the first one, so that the in terms of power scaling, we're ascending with each duel against each Rare Hunter, so to speak, until the final boss duel, Yami Merrick, and the final Battle City duels that are taking place onto the ship. Now, like I said, Rare Hunter has the device of the three factors that I just recalled and told you about, and of course, we now there's not much to say about him personally, as just to that he collects, like all other Rare Hunters as well, as the slave and servant of Marek, the most rarest and seldomly handled powerful cards from the world, dual monster cards, of course. And this is the main line of reasoning behind it. Now let's. I want to say more about it, because Seeker, we don't know that much about the Seeker Rare Hunter. He's just one of the servants who then, as he loses his duel against Yugi Muto on the onset of the uh, Battle City tournament, he then vanishes from the face of the earth. And so let's just dive into that deck. Like I said, of course, it's very logical to all those who saw the Duel Monsters series knows that he tries to stall. First of all, we have 3 times the Giant Soldier of Stone. Now, Giant Soldier of Stone, of course, is a very, very particular, significant Yugi Muto card, but he has it also in his deck, I think. But I'm not sure anymore about it. But if not, rather just take it as an addition. But like I said, it has 1,300 attack, 2,000 defense, Earth type, and has 3 stars. And of course, it's a Rock type monster. But the main purpose behind this card is, of course, also to stall. And if I'm not now being mistaken, and he hasn't had this card in his deck, then you just see it as an addition to take into account and to play along his main and key strategy of stalling until he draws finally his 5 pieces of Exodia. So for the next card, the strongest defensive power card is Gear Golem, the Moving Fortress. Gear Golem, the Moving Fortress, also an Earth attribute, and machine type monster with 4 stars, 800 attack, and 2,200 defense. And it has an effect. You have to pay 800 life points, and you can attack your opponent's life points directly. But that's not the main argument for playing this card, but to stall with 2200 defense. It is his most powerful defensive lineup by far into this deck. Then, as the third defensive precaution measure, we have the stone statue of the Aztecs, which has just 300 attack and 2000 defense. It's also an earth attribute, but a rock monster is giant soldier of stone, of course. And it has a by far better attack, because if this card is attacked and your opponent gets battle damage from it, the battle damage that he or she receives is doubled. So yeah, it's a better possibility to take this onto his plays, because then it remains in the defensive posture along the duel. Then we have a card which we are not that sure that he had it at all, but I think I might be mistaken, but it might be the case that he played it out against Joey Wheeler, but I'm not certain about that one anymore. So I'm just taking this also in there, which is the Hannibal Necromancer, 3 times, which is an dark attribute, 4 stars, like most of the others also. Gear Golem has 4 stars, Stone Statue of the Aztecs also. And Hannibal Necromancer has 1400 attack and 1800 defense, so not that much of an defense stats as the other ones, but still with measurable, considerable attack points in case the Seeker has the possibility to attack also while trying to get on his Exodia pieces. It will be a good option to have a card like that also, and it has also an effect. It's a spellcaster. If you put one, if this card is normal summon, you place 1 spell counter on it, and you can then remove 1 spell counter, in order to destroy 1 trap card from your opponent, or a trap card on the field, which is even better. But still, this is a possibility to, of course, destroy also other counter measures of your opponent, to play onto trap cards, or to bring on a tactic against that main strategy of yours in the deck. Then I put, of course, another filler in there, which is Sangan. If Sangan is destroyed, of course, Sangan has 1000 attack and 600 defense. It's a dark attribute with 3 stars, and it's a fiend type monster, which has the effect, of course, very cunning effect, and coming handy if you want to, for example, take one of your Exodia pieces from the deck to your hand. If it's destroyed by battle and placed into the graveyard, then you can choose one of your monsters from the deck with 1500 attack or fewer, which all the Exodia pieces have, and then then you can take it from the deck onto your hand. So it makes also sense in the world, and of course, even this deck hasn't not contained enough monster cards to make up a good lineup against any opponent. And as I already always mentioned, I want to have a deck which can stand its ground, at least at the gold format. So yeah, there we go. Then I have 3 times the 3-headed Guido, a 4 stars monster, dark attribute, 1200 attack, 1400 defense, and fiend type monster. Also one of the vanillas in this deck, which he had and took into play. I don't know. I think it might be against Joey, but also could be against Yugi. I'm not even sure anymore about that one. but still it was in his deck, and I took it there and as a 3 of. And then we have the Magical Hand. This card is an exchange for another card which looked similar. I don't know the stats, were I think weaker, but still Magical Hand, for example. Magical Hand 4 stars, Dark Attribute, but 1600 defense, 800 attack with 1600 defense. Also not that bad of a defense measure, and it's also a spellcaster monster which has the effect if your opponent takes cards from his deck to his hand, except with drawing or by drawing it. You can take this very card from his hand to the graveyard, and if you do, he or she loses 800 life points. And this card can also be just used. Card's effect can also be just used once per duel. So it's a little bit crafty, of course, but it can hurt here and there. In terms of the very fact, if you want to destroy a little bit the strategy and tactics of your opponent. Then I have also Baphomet and the Red Eyes Black Dragon. Of course, Baphomet was one of the monsters that he was seen in his deck, which he never played out, but it was seen in his deck, and I don't know which sense it will make to have this card in the deck. Maybe it was also a filler, but okay, it has 5 stars. It's a Dark Attribute. It's a field type monster with 1400 attack and 1800 defense. With the effect, of course, to summon then Gazelle if it's destroyed. I think if you normal flip summon this one, you can take a Gazelle from the deck to your hand. But we don't have any Gazelle, so it doesn't make that much sense. Maybe it was just to fill up his deck in the anime. And Red Eyes Black Dragon, of course, which he won against his duel with Joey Wheeler, 7 stars, Dark Attribute, 2400 attack, 2000 defense, and a Dragon type monster. I mean, the very iconic monster, which of course Joey Wheeler won in the Duelist Kingdom arc from none other than Rex Raptor, and now it's the most iconic card, which is associated with Joey Wheeler, ironically. Now, and last but not least, of course, the right arm of the forbidden, the left arm of the forbidden, right leg, left leg, and last but not least, the head, Exodia the Forbidden. Now, I don't have to say much about these. Of course, the legs are all in the hands of vanillas with unconsiderable attack as well as defense stats. Only the head has, I think, 1000 attack, 1000 defense. The other pieces have 200 attack and 300 defense. All of them are Dark Attribute and Spellcaster type monsters, and have just 1 star, except the Exodia the Forbidden, the head, has 3 stars, and has also, of course, the effect if you have all of the other 4 cards in your hand, you win the duel. So it's, of course, overpowered back in the days. A 1-turn win. So there it is, and this is his main monster, which he wants to bring onto his hand and to win the duel. But we have to take in mind and keep in mind that in the anime, the Exodia pieces and Exodia in general, he had 3 of each piece in his deck. So you might say that now we have 5, he has 15 of those. So it's very considerable and inconceivable to have such an amount of Exodia pieces in the deck with 40 cards, because it's very probable that you draw in the pieces very fast. But like I said, I wanted to have a perspective onto a gold format type of deck, and the method that brings such a deck into play and could be also be successful in the reality. So I made this deck, and of course in consideration which card he possessed in his deck and which he hadn't. So there you go. This is the monster lineup, and now we coming right away to his spell cards, which are of course also having the very purposes to stall and to drop as many cards as possible. Now to his spell cards. I have 3 Swords of Revealing Light because we have to stall as much as we can. Of course, we have strong defensive postures into this deck, but still there are some cards that are not that strong in terms of defense stats, and then we can stall 3 rounds if possible to protect them, and then to rather draw more cards and get closer to gathering all of the 5 Exodia pieces. Then I have Exchange, a card which he hadn't in his deck. Of course, Swords of Revealing Light he took also into play, into the battle. Exchange was a typical Battle City card which was introduced into this very arc, which many competitors had into this very Duel Monsters era, and is a good measure maybe to, if your test or your cards in your hand are not that good, you might maybe take the risk and go for the bait, and then maybe get a better card into your hand. Monster Reborn, of course, a very staple card, you might say, also in the Battle City arc, but also in general. Bot of Greed, in order to draw more cards, as well as Graceful Charity, just as a one-off, of course. That, in order that deck can also be played in the gold format and it's not too overpowered. Cards of Sanctity, which I'm not that much certain whether he played this one out, but I might remember that he also had this. In any case, I would let this very one be in this deck to have another option to make more drawing power possible. Now that's all about his spell cards, because he didn't use that much spell cards, and I've just added a couple of staples, and of course the significant Battle City card. So we have just not that many of spell cards, but I also took into account trap cards, which he didn't play out at all in the anime, but I think it might be very conceivable that he had cards like this, like Reckless Greed, another of those possibilities to draw more cards, but then to draw 2 cards and skip 2 of the phases, turn draw phases after that. Then of course Jar of Avarice, which brings if you have 5 or more monsters in your graveyard, then you can 5 cards in your graveyard, then you can you just can choose 5 cards in your graveyard and then bring them back to the deck, and then then draw 1 card. So maybe if you had to risk one of the Exodia cards, for example, and they're lying dead in the graveyard, then you can bring them back with Jar of Avarice, of course 3 times, which makes sense. Then you have also a recycling possibility, and also with drawing power you can then bring it back again into the play. And then of course Attack Negate. 2 times you can skip battle phases of your opponent, and it's another stalling measure. Another of those recycling cards I put in there was of course Backup Soldier. If you have this is the one I just recalled earlier, and just misjudged and mixed up with this one. If you have 5 or more monsters cards in your graveyard, then you can choose unto 3 non-effect monster cards with 1,500 attack or fewer in your graveyard and take it into your hand. So even if you have to risk a couple of Exodia pieces, you can bring them back onto your hand, all lining them up, or a couple of the other vanilla monsters which you had in there, the normal monsters, they were destroyed, and then bring them back to play. Then, as another maybe countermeasure, I had the 70 reverse measure. I have 7 Tools of the Bandit against trap cards and magical destruction, magic jammer as a negate effect against spell cards. Now, this is it. This is my, I think, 41 card deck profile from the Rare Hunter Seeker, the weakest after my stance and view from the Rare Hunters, but still it makes sense, like I said, to scale the power measures and to ascend from the first one to the others, then finally ending into the very boss of the whole Rare Hunter crew, which is of course Yami Marek. Yeah, and now this is it. This is my 41 cards deck. Seeker Rare Hunter, of course, some consideration for the gold format, some fillers and additions of my side, which might make sense, because we don't get 40 cards if we don't have some other cards in addition to the very ones he played out. And of course we cannot play out in the reality 3 pieces of each Exodia card, which is really immeasurable and inconceivable. And of course there will be another opening, like I already spoiled, but I didn't spoil which set it will be. We'll be hunting some of the cards which are linked to Seeker Rare Hunter. This is for me a good day, good evening, and good night, whenever you might see it. This is your Slifer Maniac. Stay tuned for the next character of next week, and as always, goodbye. Your Slifer Maniac.